So the purpose of doing all this, was to try to work out, what output a firm would make. So given it's facing total price competition, how many units is it going to make, and is the firm going to make a profit? That was the purpose of developing this model. Before we do that, there's a question that occurred to me when I was making the last one right at the end. People sometimes wonder, how can it be that this line is both demand and somehow it's marginal revenue and average revenue? How can it be both things at the same time? And the reason is that, and this will be true as we go through the course, that a lot of these functions tell you two things because there are two axes. Sometimes we're going to be interested in how many units is it that the firm is selling. So sometimes this line is going to be telling us that demand is at D1 or at D2. That's the output that's being sold. That depending on what the firm chooses to do, that there is sometimes it's telling us about quantity, sometimes it's telling us about money. So later in the course, you can see it actually from last year. We've got a demand curve there. Actually, that demand curve you'll find later, for a firm in monopoly, is also its average revenue. It's sometimes called its price line. And the reason is that on the one hand, it tells us, point A, it tells us that there are 30 units that are being sold. But on the other hand, it tells us that on average, the price the firm gets is 10 quid. So on the one hand, it's telling you demand. On the other hand, it's telling you your average revenue, your price, that you're getting from selling these things. So don't be confused by that. It's just that that sometimes we look at things one way and sometimes we look at them another. So turning to what it is that we want to do, we want to look at the output and profit. Remember, we've assumed that the firm is going to aim to maximize its profit. That's true all the way through. So let's take our firm. Let's take our tomato seller. They're selling for £10. They're their output. How many units should they choose to sell? Well, they're a profit-making firm. They want to sell units that are going to add to their profit. And we said that shows the extra revenue that they're going to get from selling an extra unit. So we only want to sell units, really, where the extra revenue is at least equal to and preferably more than the extra cost. So we know that marginal cost looks like that because the firm faces increasing and diminishing returns. So initially increasing and then diminishing returns to its variable factor. So which units does it want to make? Does it want to make the 10th unit? The answer is, well, yeah, it does. Because the 10th unit, it gets plus £10 revenue, but only has plus £4 cost. What about that one? The 20th unit. That one's great. That's probably the single most profitable unit. It makes an extra £10, but only costs an extra, whatever that is, £3 or something. But we want to make all the profitable units, not just the most profitable one. Just because we make that one doesn't mean we can't then make the 30th unit as well. Which generates an extra £10, and costs an extra £6. So essentially what this firm wants to do is it wants to make all of the units right up until there. It wants to make all of these units. Each one is contributing to the firm's profit. It wants to make the first, second, third, fourth, all the way up to the 40th one. Whether we make the 40th one strictly doesn't really matter. We assume that we do for mathematical reasons. Yes. So we want to make all the units up until the 40th, but what about the ones after the 40th? Why don't we want to make those? Well, let's have a look at those. If we look at the 50th unit, it's clear that the marginal cost is well above the marginal revenue. So as soon as you go past that point, each unit is now reducing your profit. The extra cost is more than the extra revenue. So we want to make all of the units up to that point, where MR is greater than MC, and we want to make none of the units where MC is greater than MR. So the firm's going to maximize its profits at the output where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. And that's determining the output that it's gonna make. That's the profit maximizing output. So has the firm made a profit? It kind of looks like it. But the problem is that we know that marginal costs, they are only variable costs. So what we don't really know is whether it's made enough to be able to pay its fixed costs as well. So we need some more information. Currently, we also know that the price that the firm charges, its average revenue, is £10, and it's selling 40 units. So we also know that we can work out the firm's total revenue. And we know that profit is going to be total revenue minus total cost. So we know it's total revenue because we know that from last year, price times quantity, which is the same as saying average revenue times quantity. And in this case, we know that the price is 10, quantity is 40, so it's going to have a total revenue of 400 quid, which is 10 times 40. That is the firm's total revenue. So what we also need to know then is, well, what are its total costs? And marginal cost isn't good enough for this because it only tells us about variable cost. But if we knew what the cost per unit was on average, and average cost includes both fixed and variable cost, then we'd know whether the firm had made a profit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the average cost curve, or put in an average cost curve anyway. Let's suppose that average cost looks like that. Hits its minimum point there. Then starts to rise. So there's average cost. So if we're at the profit maximizing output of 40 units, then what we've said that the price that they charge is £10. What's the cost? The average cost of making 40 units is, say, 7 quid. So what we now know is the firm's total costs are 7 times 40. Our average cost is £7. Our quantity is 40. So therefore I have total cost of £280, meaning my profit, that's not a great colour, is it? Meaning my profit is 120. Or looking another way, I'm making a profit of £3 per unit, and I'm making that profit on 40 units. So that area there is what you'll see shortly is going to be called abnormal profit. So the black area, original black area, is total cost. The brown area, original black area was total revenue, The brown area is total cost, and then this kind of running out of colours, and I'll now make this area here in kind of red circles. That's the difference between the two, which is the firm's abnormal profit. So that's how we're going to draw these diagrams. That's how we're going to show the firm's profit maximizing output and its profit. So that's probably quite confusing. So I'm going to take that. If you're happy with that, feel free to switch off now. If we say how do we draw these diagrams? How do we show what it is? Essentially, there are two steps. Step one is the output step. And in the output step, all you're going to do is you find the output at which MC equals MR. And you find that output, which we're going to call Q star. Step two is the profit step. And this will be true for every diagram you ever draw in theory of the firm. What we then do is we say, at Q star, what is average revenue, the firm's price, what is average cost, the firm's cost per unit, and what is the difference between them. And then we show that as the profit or potentially loss. So let's do it for a loss-making firm. So if the firm's making a loss, that's average revenue, margin revenue, demand. If it's making a loss, then average cost is going to be above average revenue at all outputs. I'm going to make that slightly more like that. Here's marginal cost. So, step one, let's find where MC equals MR. Here's MC, here's MR. Q star is the profit maximizing output. We want to produce all the units where the extra revenue is above the extra cost. Where's average revenue? It's here. So the firm's total revenue is that there. If that's 10 quid and that's 100 units, it's making total revenue of £1,000. And the last thing we have to do is say, at Q star, what's the firm's average cost? It's not there, by the way. Yeah, it's not the minimum point of average cost curve. The firm's not producing there. Everybody gets sucked in by that. It's there at 12 quid. So its total cost is the whole of that, meaning that it has a loss or subnormal profit, yeah, of that area there, yeah, because the red is total cost, yeah, the purple, whatever colour that is, yeah, is total revenue, and total revenue is less than total cost. And that process we're going to use in every single market structure, that two-step process, and that's a helpful way of thinking about it. Yeah, come back.